2020 was the worst, right? The worst. Worst ever. We even use 2020 now as like just a way to say the worst. That was so 2020, right? It's just the worst thing ever, except for us, right? Why was it the best for us? For at least a month and a half. That's when the Chiefs dynasty started. Come on, people. That's when Mahomes won his first Super Bowl. Come on, what are we talking? Of course, it was the best for us. We were just like, just. Then we kind of forgot that for a little bit, but it's okay. For me, though, I do not remember Super Bowl 54 like that. I remember that the Chiefs won around that time, but I always forget that they actually won in 2020. Because for me, in 2020, I remember the 2020 Super Bowl for having the best Super Bowl commercial of all time. Like, hands down, the best Super Bowl commercial I've ever seen in my entire life. The frustrating part is that it was from New York Life, which is just, like, they're a life insurance company, so it's kind of frustrating, like, they did this? They're the ones that, but they did. In 60 seconds and $15 million, in 60 seconds, New York Life, of all people, gave the most beautiful and powerful introduction to love that I have ever witnessed in my entire life. What they did is they introduced that the ancient Greeks, they had 4 words for love. I've told you this before, English is the worst language. How many words do we have for love? 1. What is it? Love, exactly. It's the worst. We have the worst language ever. Spanish is a little bit better. There's 2 words for love in Spanish. But Greek, ancient Greek, has 4 different words for love. And New York Life just stepped through them, right? Philia, storge, eros, and agape. Philia is that kind of love between friends, right? You don't love your friends. That's weird. But you do love them. And so that's why you would use the word philia. If you went up to your friend and said, I love you in English, they go, whoa, dude, calm down. Whoa. But that's why English is the worst language, right? In Greek, you say, oh, I philia you. Oh, yeah, we're friends. Bestest friends. Great. The second kind of love is storge. Storge is the kind of love that you have for your grandparents or the love that you have for your teachers or your coaches. Again, you don't love them. That's weird. But you do love them. There's a real love that you have for them. Eros, from which we get the word erotic, is that kind of I love you sort of love. And that's a beautiful kind of love, right? It's a real love. It's a real kind of, okay, great. It's that passionate love to say, I love you. Great. Philia, storge, eros. But then there's a 4th kind of love. And as New York Life brilliantly pointed out, this is love as an action. This is love as saying, I'm going to do what's best for you, even if it's not the best thing for me. I'm going to do what's good for you, even if I don't get anything back in return. I'm going to sacrifice for you. I'm going to make a selfless decision for you, a life-giving decision for the other. That's agape love. This is a kind of love that you can love people. You can love your friends like this way. You can love your grandma, your teacher, your coaches, your girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, your enemies even. You can agape love anybody. Okay, pop quiz. First communicants. I know you were just paying attention so closely. Given the fact that the Gospels were written in Greek, which word do you think Jesus uses every time that he's talking about love? A, B, C, or D? We'll make it easy on you. A, good guess. Such a good guess. B, not a good guess, but it's still a good guess. D, okay, good job. Every time, I'll find $1 for you. Every time that Jesus, except one, every time that Jesus is talking about love, he's using the word agape. Jesus is talking about agape type love. Okay, so in today's gospel, very famous scene. So this is after the resurrection, after Jesus is risen from the dead. The disciples have seen Jesus at least 2 times, but here in this famous scene on the shore of the Sea of Tiberias, which is the Sea of Galilee, just a different name for it. Here, probably at the exact same spot that Jesus first called Simon and Andrew, James and John, that place where he first said, leave your nets behind, come and follow me. And they left their nets, they left their family and went and followed Jesus. You remember that, right? I'll make you fishers of men, that cool scene? Okay, very at the very beginning. Once again, here they are. And Jesus asks Simon Peter, he asks him, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Do you agape love me more than these? Right? Jesus asks him, that agape love, that selfless, sacrificial, life-giving love, do you agape love me? Beautiful. And we know Peter, right? We all know Peter. He's on board with this from day one. Again, he left everything to follow Jesus. We even were told, remember Palm Sunday, Good Friday? Peter said, Jesus, I'm willing to go to death with you. I'm willing to die for you. That's an agape type saying. That's you saying, I love you even to the point of laying down my life for you. Well, we know how the story went. It didn't happen. Peter denies him. So Jesus shows up today and asks him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Agape love me. And Peter says what? Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And that's why English is the worst, right? No, what does Peter say? Jesus asks him, Peter, do you agape love me? And Peter says, yes, Lord, I philia love you. He uses a different word. Peter recognizes that his love that he has for Jesus is not that highest, greatest form of love. Do you agape love me? And Peter says, yeah, I philia love you. He's not quite there. We experience this all the time. This is us. We say it. We're just like, I'd take a bullet for you. I'd take a bullet for my wife. I'd take a bullet for my kids. I'd take a bullet for you. We want that agape type love. But then what happens? I will lay down my life for you. I will just not take out the trash right now, right? We want that agape type love, but then we begin to recognize in the smaller things, we don't always live that out. I don't want to take out the trash. I don't really want to go to this thing. I know I shouldn't have said that when we were fighting the other day. This, that, and the other. We start to recognize, as much as we want an agape type love, we begin to recognize that we oftentimes have a philia love. Not just for the people around us, even for God himself. Look at these guys. Okay, guys, you have to wake up again. Are you guys excited to be here? Good. So happy that you're here. So excited. Again, our faith can be like this too. Right? We're ready to go. Day one. Agape type love. Ready for our first communion. Ready to live our faith. Brimming. These guys are so stoked. It's a great day. But then what happens? Over time, again, these kids are excited, but I'm guessing there's at least a few people here that are just like, yeah, it's mass. And over time, it kind of fades away. Same thing in marriage, in relationships, even in our faith. The newness can kind of fade. And it's not because you hate your spouse, I hope. It's not because you hate the person. It's not because you hate God. It's just life, time. The newness fades away. And that desire we have for an agape type love, that can even begin to fade away. Again, even with our faith, we want to receive the Eucharist. We're super stoked to receive the Eucharist for the first time, so excited. But then week after week, Sunday after Sunday, we're just like, oh yeah, I know, it's Jesus. It's no big deal. Don't worry about it. The newness of it all fades away. We shouldn't get super discouraged, though. Why? Because we're in good company. Because we're in Peter's company. Peter, what does Peter say? Right? Peter, this guy, he's met Jesus. He's given everything to follow Jesus. He's followed him for years. Peter has seen Jesus alive, risen from the dead. He's seen all the miracles. Peter, right? Peter is that guy. But as we hear today, what does Peter do? After he's seen all this, he just goes back to fishing. Right? Peter goes back to just his normal life. And again, is it because he hates Jesus? Thanks. No. I knew you guys were paying attention. No, Peter does not hate Jesus. But what does happen? Peter does kind of shy away from an agape type love, and he just goes back to what's familiar. Right? He just goes back to his normal life. He just goes back to what's safe. And that's why Jesus asks him, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? These are the fish and his fishing gear. He's saying, Simon, come on, man. Do you love me more than fishing, right? That's what he's asking him, first and foremost. Again, that's this very similar experience to what we have. We have a powerful moment. Maybe we go on a retreat. Maybe we convert. We receive our first communion. We get baptized. We have a powerful experience at Mass. The preaching hits us. Maybe one day. I don't know. Something happens, and we're just like, Easter happens, and we're like, all right, this is the year. I'm going back to church. We say, all right, here we go. But then Monday hits, and next week hits, and the months go by, and we haven't really prayed much. We haven't gone to Mass much. Jesus becomes a nice friend for us. Like the friends you had in college, and they were your bestest friends, but now you haven't talked to them in 15 years? You love them, but you just don't really see them. You just don't really talk to them. But you still have a real love for them, don't you? Right. That's us. We maintain our philia love for Jesus. Again, I doubt anyone's here because you hate Jesus. No, we all have a philia love for Jesus. I love that guy. But then we can begin to recognize, well, I just don't really talk to him. We don't really hang out. Love him, he's just not that important in my life right now. That's what I mean. That's what's going on in Peter's life. He goes back to fishing. We just go back to Jesus being that nice guy that we love, but he's just kind of there. That's why today it is so helpful for us to see these kids. You still awake? Yeah. Thanks. It's so helpful for us to see these kids. Why? Because they show us, at least at one point, we were like this. We once had this same sort of joy and enthusiasm with living our faith. We remember the day we woke up for our first communion, or when we got baptized, or we became Catholic, whenever it was, and we're like, yeah, so stoked. This is what it was. And we can this is the kind of faith that inspires us and can help us to remember that love that we once had. All those, that's why stories for us are so important. I'm very sure I've shared this before. I only know stories of people from China. I don't know if you knew that. If you're visiting, I only know stories of people from China. There was this beautiful little girl. So back about 100 years ago in China, there was the Boxer Rebellion. And so the Chinese soldiers went through and just started destroying all the Catholic churches in China, just ripped them to shreds. They went into one small town there in China, one rural town, went into the church, right, messed up the church, took the tabernacle, threw it on the floor. The Eucharist just got spread all over the floor, took the priest, locked him up in his house arrest, and then they just guarded the church so nobody could use it. Well, one little girl, she was 8 years old. How old are you guys? Wow, and 9, okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. So your guys are around 8 years old though, right? Okay. So this is not a coincidence for you. All right, she's about 8 years old. She'd received her first communion. But when she sees this happen to her church, right, she goes back every single night. She sneaks into the church, past the guards, sneaks into the church, and goes to the floor where the Eucharist is, scattered on the floor. And she kneels down, and for 1 hour she prays in front of the Eucharist. She makes a holy hour. And then she receives one of the hosts and sneaks back out and goes home. For 32 nights, she does this. 32 hosts are on the floor. 32 nights in a row, she comes to do this. Sneaking past the guards, praying for an hour, receiving the Eucharist, and going home. On the 32nd night, though, she's caught. After she does it, she's caught, and the soldiers take her away, and she gives her life for this faith. 8 years old. This story then begins to be passed down to the people around the village, to all the priests that are around. It even reaches the ears of a guy named Father Fulton Sheen. You guys have probably heard of Archbishop Fulton Sheen. But this story is so inspirational to the young Father Fulton Sheen that he decides every day for the rest of my life, I'm going to make a holy hour. And he did. For the rest of his life, every day, he spent 1 hour in prayer in front of the Eucharist, in front of the tabernacle. Why? Because he knew he had to keep this faith kindled within him. The joy, the enthusiasm that these kids have right now, he knew he had to work to maintain that enthusiasm and that joy in front of the Eucharist, in front of the Lord. This faith which had shaped the life of this young girl. This girl gave her life for this faith. That is an agape type love, a selfless laying down your life sort of a love. That shaped her life, and it inspired not only Father Fulton Sheen, but it's inspired many, many people since. So, like I've been saying since Easter, every single one of us, we share that pure, that simple faith that Jesus rose from the dead. We're all on board with that. Dead guy rose from the dead. 100%. We're good to go. Great. But the question, though, isn't, do we just believe that? The question then is, does this faith now shape our life? It's that Bernano's quote I've been using, right? We don't lose our faith. The faith merely begins to cease to shape our lives. That's what happens. We all believe Jesus rose, but does this faith shape our life? Ultimately, then, the question is, as Jesus asks today, do you love me? And not just, do you love me in English, because that's the worst. Jesus asks, do you agape love me? Or, like Peter, can we recognize, well, yeah, Lord, I just philia love you. I kind of went back to fishing, I went back to my old life, my old routine, all that other sort of stuff. I still love you. But the faith has kind of ceased to shape my life. The good news is this. Sorry, don't mean to be a downer, right? There's good news. Here's the good news. The good news is this. There is one and only one time in the Gospels where Jesus uses the word philia. And it's right in this scene. The only time he ever uses it. Right? Jesus asks Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Agape love me. Yes, Lord, you know that I philia love you. Simon, do you love me? Agape love me. Yes, Lord, I philia love you. But on that third time, and the only time Jesus ever says it, Jesus asks Simon Peter, all right, Simon, son of John, do you philia love me? And Peter responds, yeah. You know that I philia love you. What Jesus is doing is he's saying, all right, Peter, I get it. We'll start where you're at. Jesus notches it down and he says, great. You do have a love for me. It's not where we want you to be, but you have a love for me. We'll start there. And we'll start moving forward again. It's a beautiful scene where Jesus takes Peter where he's at and then invites him to keep going forward. At the end of the scene, what does Jesus say? Follow me. Just like that very first day, leave your nets, follow me. Today, once again, Jesus says, all right, let's just start again. Peter, come and follow me. And Peter does. From that day forward, Peter begins to follow the Lord once again. And we all know how the story of Peter ends. Do you guys know? Oh man, I'm going to spoil it for you. Peter begins to follow Jesus and eventually does reach that level of an agape type love. Peter eventually lays down his life for Jesus. He ends up crucified upside down, uncoincidentally in Rome, where St. Peter's Basilica is to this day. That's where Peter, agape loves the Lord, lays down his life for the Lord. Okay, so the same thing then is the same thing for us. The question is, do we agape love Jesus? And maybe your answer is, like Peter, yeah, I philia love him. And that's okay. But today, the Lord makes that simple invitation. The Lord says, great, we'll start where you're at. The Lord lets you start where you're at, but then he invites you forward. He says, great, you're there, but now he asks you to begin to take those steps forward, just like he does with Peter. And we can begin to follow him once again. Right? We can allow this faith to begin to shape our lives once again, to grow into these people of an agape type love, not just a philia love, he's my bud, no, a true agape love for the Lord. Not just going back to fishing and work and the busyness and like, well, I'll get to Jesus again one of these days. No, we can begin again, follow after the Lord, to love him, to place the Eucharist, the church, our faith at the center of our lives, and to allow it to shape every part of our life.